إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل الله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ونور قلوبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. قال سبحانه وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Verily all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek His forgiveness, we seek His guidance, and we seek refuge from the vials of our souls and the negative consequences of our actions. Whomsoever Allah Ta'ala leads astray, nothing can guide, and whomsoever Allah Ta'ala guides, nothing can lead astray. And we testify, we bear witness, we hold true with our essence that there's no deity, no object, nothing in the created world except that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be worshipped. And we testify and we bear witness and we hold true that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was His final prophet, who is our intercessor, and we ask Allah ta'ala to send His blessings upon the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah ta'ala says in the Quran, O you who believe, fear Allah, be mindful, be conscious, be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and do not die except that you're in a state of Islam. Inshallah, mashallah, Ramadan Mubarak to everybody. This is almost 1 week down. And alhamdulillah, as we entered this month, I was reflecting upon this notion of what you're, as a Muslim, what you're supposed to do, these ideals of Islam. And I was thinking about, as Ramadan comes year after year, alhamdulillah, many of us get to experience that. And some of those who experienced it last year are not here with us to experience that. Some of our loved ones have passed in between. And I was thinking about this notion of Islam. And there was one thing my friend, he actually posted this and it struck me. And this is what I actually want to talk about today, inshallah. And it struck me at my core, because until you take a step back and look at your life, and all your life is, it's time and it's health. Because one of those two things go, then you've ended your show, so to speak. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf had a very beautiful quote on life. He said, you're on stage and it's your final show, and the one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you. So make it a good play. Make it a good showing. Right? That you only get one chance at this gig. Right? One chance at life. And make the most of it. And that time is of the essence. And there's a sense of urgency that we should have. In the Quran, Allah Ta'ala talks about this, sari'u, sabiqu, right? That hasten, race towards forgiveness, race towards doing good deeds. There is a sense of urgency. In movies and etc., they say, quick, we're running out of time, or you tell our children that, quick, hurry, we're running out of time. We're all running out of time. Since the moment we were born, we're all running out of time. And time is only as valuable as the things that you do in it. And this brother, what he posted, and it was to the non-Muslim audience, he said, I've been Muslim for 25 years. And he's a convert, or a revert. He says, I've been Muslim the last 25 years of my life. And since that day I accepted Islam, I've prayed 5 times a day. I've learned to read the Quran in Arabic and understand much of what I'm reading. And he went on, but what struck me is this notion that for men, from the moment that you reach puberty, you will pray before the sunlight. And you'll pray 5 times in a day until the moment that your heart stops beating. For the rest of your life, Allah Ta'ala has prescribed that you pray and you prostrate every day, multiple times throughout the day, until your heart stops beating. And if you're sick and you're ill, then you go through different degrees of your prayer to the extent that you do it in your heart, right? Or with head nods. But that you've committed, you've signed up for Islam. And when the prerequisite, or one of the essence of Islam, is your prayers, your non-negotiable prayers. That's just one dimension of what you've committed to. And it's very clear that in life, Allah Ta'ala talks about that many of us, mashallah, have dedicated more time to reading the Quran. There are two ways of living life. Right? Inna hadaynahu sabila. That we have guided him to a path, imma shakira wa imma kafura. That those who either take the path of being grateful, of having faith and believing in God and recognizing His blessings, or those who are kafura, who are ingrates and deny the existence of God and deny that they've been given what they've been given by a divine source, and perhaps think it is from themselves. And we learn and we read about وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِ مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. That this is my path, Allah Ta'ala says, so follow it. In other verses you come across, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. The other path that's an alternative, the path in the footsteps of the devil. That you have two ways of living your life. But the ideals of Islam, they're not lowly asks. Many of us in the corporate world, what was the expectation when you go through your annual reviews and 365, etc.? What was the expectation set? Right? What were your goals that you set out to do for the year? Or maybe your personal goals. Right? Many of us do not accept mediocrity. That we set low-hanging fruit or low bars. Right? We're ambitious about what we want to achieve. Right? Certainly Allah Ta'ala has set the same benchmark for us in Islam. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, and keep this in mind about what just happened in Portland. Right? Just keep this notion in mind, the degree of sacrifice for living up to the principles of your faith. Right? Because كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءً لِلَّهِ. Be vanguards of truth and witnesses before God, وَلَوْ عَلَى أَنفُسِكُمْ. Right? Even if it's against yourself. That these patrons were vanguards of truth. Certainly they didn't think that was going to be the last time that they would kiss their families goodbye. Right? But they held up to principles. The same principles that you find in our faith and in the Quran and what you see of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? But these ideals, these goals, this benchmark does not come about or is not reached by chilling. It's not reached by playing video games. It's not reached by sleeping. Right? It's reached through hard work, through sincerity, through action, through service, through giving. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ. From amongst people are those who sell themselves. The most precious thing that you have in life is yourself, is your heartbeat, is your breath. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ. From people are those who sell themselves, ابتغاء مرضات الله, seeking the pleasure of God, seeking that God is happy with them, that they will do anything in the seconds that they have on earth so that God is pleased with them. Wallahu ra'ufun bil ibad. And God is most forgiving and gentle and kind to His servants. Right? Those are the people that we need to ascribe to be amongst. Right? And in the next verse, right, you talk about there are people who do this. MashaAllah. Right? Now the imperative to the believers. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu And if you weren't here, you wouldn't be addressed in this call. Right? Oh, you who believe. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu udkhulu fi silmi kaffa. Right? Oh, you who believe, enter. Come into this faith completely and wholly. Right? And don't follow the footsteps of the devil. Right? That is what's upon you, is to follow, right? And to enter into al-Islam, and to follow the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? That's what's upon us. Right? But it's not easy. And if you're willing to give everything, including yourself, to achieve that aim, right, then you, mashallah, have arrived. But if you're like myself and have years to go to achieve that, then we have work to do. Right? We absolutely have work to do. If you look at the month that we're in, and look at this blessed month, you are fasting, you are going hungry 18 hours a day. Right? You are giving up sleep with our schedules the way they are. Right? An essence of life, food, an essence of life. Right? Your disposable time is spent reading Quran. You are making the extra effort to come to prayer. Right? And you're praying throughout the night in congregation. And you're staying for 1 to 2 hours depending on how long you pray or what mosque you might pray at. Right? These are the sacrifices and the ideals that we are to aim towards. And if we're not doing that, and this is week 1, make use of your Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ, when Ramadan would come, they said, Ajud al-Nas. Right? He was the most generous of people, but specifically in Ramadan. And when Ramadan would come, he would tighten his izar, which is basically a lugi or a cloth that you wrap underneath a thobe. And he would tighten it, meaning that he got to work. Right? That it was time to focus and to deliver. And this is the realm between you and your Lord. Right? But it was time to deliver. And Islam, and this is the crux of the khutbah, and this is what I want to get across, is that Islam is not a passive religion. Islam, if you practice Islam, it is not a passive religion. In its essence and in its core and in its example, it's an active religion. And we all need to be active participants in that. Otherwise, we're going to continue to read about the ideals of Islam and read about the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, but we'll never experience them. And we won't experience the sweetness of the faith and the realities of the life that they envisioned, or he envisioned, or that are laid out in the Quran. But we have to be active. In the Quran, Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَنْ أَسْلَمَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ تَحَرَّوْا رَشَدًا. Whoever is the one who submits, وَمَنْ أَسْلَمَ. Right? Whoever truly submits, they are the ones who are actively seeking guidance and righteousness. It's not a passive faith. It takes your being and your essence, and it takes a commitment, and that's what I want to talk about in the second part of this khutbah, is that it takes a personal commitment to be a true believer, to be a true Muslim. أقول قولي هذا استغفر لي ولكم استغفر فإنه غفور رحيم. الحمد لله حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. O you who believe, be mindful, be conscious of Allah, and be with those who are truthful. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Shayabatni Hud. He said that the surah of Hud caused him to be gray. And that verse specifically in that surah was فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. Right? To be steadfast as you were commanded. To be steadfast as you were commanded to be by the one who created your atoms. Right? Be steadfast as you were commanded. Right? And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh said about that, he said, there was no verse that was descended upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that was heavier, weightier than that verse. And that's our example. فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. To be steadfast. And steadfast has a longevity in its essence, is that you're not just steadfast in Ramadan. You're not just coming to the mosque in Ramadan. You're just not serving the musallis and those who are breaking their fast in Ramadan. That you're serving people throughout. وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. That you are worshiping God until certainty comes to you. That's the longevity of life. That you are obedient and you are a servant to God and serving people with that intention until certainty or till death comes to you. My brothers and sisters and elders in Islam, this is not a part-time thing. And it's not a 1 month thing. And it's not a Jum'ah thing. And mashallah, there are many people who are titans in my eyes that are serving this community year after year and day after day and week after week. It's not only on their shoulders. Those shoulders we should assist and we should help carry. Right? And we should lead from time to time to give those people a break and a breath. But we should look at what we're doing for ourselves. And I promise you this, you will have forever to rest in your graves. Your graves will be a moment of rest. But be sincere in your worship and be active in your worship. And don't downplay anything, even if it's small. One beautiful hadith, and please take this away from the khutbah. The Prophet ﷺ said this. He said, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. He said, don't perceive anything that's de minimis or small of what is good to, don't perceive anything of good, of ma'ruf, anything that's good to be small or insignificant. I was at a soccer game, and when I came back, it was a very narrow parking lot, and I did my best to split the difference. And when I came back, I found a note on my windshield. I was like, all right, I know it's a tough parking lot. I did my best. Right? I got a note. And I opened it. And then I thought of this hadith. Because I was expecting some curse words and foul language and maybe a dent in my car. And the note said, your tabs are expired. That's it. Your tabs are expired. لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. Don't demean anything that's good as small. وَتَحْسَبُهُ, right, the Quran says, right, that they perceive تَحْسَبُونَهُ هَيِّنًا وَهُوَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمٌ. They perceive words just to be small things, but in the sight of God, they're great. And in the words of the Prophet, when he talks about Allah's love for actions, أَحَبَّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَامَهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. Right, that the most beloved actions to God are not the most magnificent or the greatest, but they're those that are done consistently. Right? That those, even if they're small. So we can chip away at our deeds, and we can chip away at days that maybe we have to make up from prayers and from fasting. We can chip away, inshallah, Allah Ta'ala gives us good lives and long lives to do righteous deeds. But don't let your lives pass you by. That those who are wasteful are the brethren of the shayateen. Right? One of the worst things you can do with your life is waste it. It's one of the greatest things you can do of a sinful nature. Right? We should be people who take the onus and the amana that has been given to us from the Quran and from the seerah, and we should act by it. And when you do that, you will see the effect in your life, your family's life, and then those around you. But it doesn't come by being complacent. It does not come by being complacent. And our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? He was one when he would sacrifice everything for Islam. He died with nothing and gave everything for the heart of the people. And he would say that if it wasn't for the heart of the people, those who were new to Islam, I would replace the bricks of the Kaaba. But that was his sensitivity and his awareness to where people were at. And so it's not just about formal actions, it's about the state of our hearts. Right? That the day will not benefit you, your wealth or your children, إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, except for the one who comes to God with a pure heart. Right? That we don't have arrogance and we've rid ourselves of these diseases, right? But we've adorned it with light and mercy and compassion. And there are many examples, and we should long for those examples, prophetic examples. And the last thing that I'll end with is this, alhamdulillah, we have health, many of us have wealth, and this is a divine blessing. And we will be asked about it. But the opportunity for each one of us to have a vast impact on those around us is enormous. People who like to demonstrate what Islam is about would literally die to be in a place where they're around non-Muslims so they can share their faith and they can let the light of Islam be shown. Right? We have that opportunity, whether in our businesses or amongst our colleagues or friends or neighbors. But unless we start thinking about others and leaving notes on people's cars when you see their tabs are expired, and we only think about it, that effect's not going to take place. But what I want to say is this, is that degree of sacrifice has been laid out. And it's not something that's going to come easy. Right? Paradise isn't something that's cheap. Nothing good comes easy, not in this life or the next. So we have to be prepared to work all day and pray all night and give of the money we made during that day when we were working, we were hungry and fasting. Right? We have to be prepared to sacrifice our possessions and ourselves for this faith. Right? Inna Allah ishtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum. That God purchased from the believers, and may Allah Ta'ala make us amongst them. Inna Allah ishtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum. That He purchased from the believers themselves, their essence, their time, their core, and everything they possess, بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ, in exchange for paradise. But that's the transaction. You get the latter half by giving up and exchanging in the first half. وَبِعْهْدِ اللَّهِ أَوْفُوا, and by the covenant of God, be truthful. And that should be a verse or a section of an ayah that we reflect upon. Am I truthful in holding that onus, that responsibility to the covenant of God? And you alone know that and what's in your hearts and what you intend. But if you're not and you reflect upon that, then think about what the future holds for you and act to where you want to end up. And don't let another Ramadan pass you by, another khutbah pass you by, where it's just a good reminder, but nothing follows up. Right? That the purpose of this talk and this congregation is to remind one another, and to benefit one another, and to enjoy taqwa, God consciousness. But it needs to transpire beyond these four walls and into the community and beyond this month and beyond this hour. May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq, right? To do the small things that make a big difference on earth and in the sight of God. Right? May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq to do the grandiose things, the major things in our lifetime, to establish schools and hospitals and madrasas and masajid and a future for our children, and give our hearts the ability to sacrifice for those who are not our children. Right? The ability to sacrifice for those who are not our children. Because they're in dire need of this faith and they're in dire need of happiness, and your children have that happiness. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا برحمتك شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من وليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر على ما قضيت. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا واغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك قريب مجيب دعوات. وصلى الله على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أقيموا الصلاة.